And that's what love can be. Love has no boundaries. And so I love poly and the idea that we let each other grow because love has no boundaries.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 162. We're Finn and Emma, and this is the first official episode of the new year.
Well, not quite.
Well, okay, the first official interview of the new year. We did have a little blooper episode. Actually, not so little. It was a really cool blooper episode that published on the 1st. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen.
Definitely a good time. You get to hear about Emma doing really embarrassing things.
And you too.
Nope.
And other
I was not embarrassed at all.
And other
peepers, lots of other peepers. We're a little early for the Easter episode.
And other people who called in. It's a compilation episode, so it's super fun, and go listen. Now, tonight, we have an interview with Tessa and Amir, and they are launching a new podcast in the end of January called The Open Nesters, and we're super excited to get this episode out there because they have a really beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. It covers a lot of different things and sort of their journey of opening up their relationship. And their podcast is really about sort of what they consider the act 3 of life, or in the time after your children leave. And a lot of people refer to it as empty nesters, and they've sort of done a little play on that with open nesters. So it's a really cool concept. It's a really great conversation, and we're excited to have them on the show and give them a little promotion from the old sharing the love.
Yes,
sharing
exactly.
The love.
Share the love.
So thanks ahead of time, Tessa and Amir, for coming on and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. And best of luck with your podcast.
And before we jump into
sorry. I had a thought.
What?
If people want to find out more about them, they should go check out our show notes, and there are links.
Yes.
You were a little angry until you saw where I went with it. Head over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the podcast tab, and you'll see show notes for all of our guests, or go down into the show notes of your podcast player. There are links to the show notes for this episode, and you can find ways to contact them, check out their website, teasers, and more. I apologize for cutting you off, Emma. Carry on.
Before we jump into the episode, and by the way, that was a good reminder. So before we jump into the episode, we do have a couple of quick announcements as normal. Our next and upcoming meet and greet, kind of redundant there.
The Department of Redundancy Department.
Yep. Our next meet and greet is January 16th, Saturday, and we're doing an afternoon event. So it's going to be at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, so that hopefully the people in other time zones like Europe or Asia can join as well.
And therefore, it wouldn't be an afternoon time zone. It wouldn't be an afternoon event if you were in
all those other places. You're right.
But it's afternoon for us, and we're super excited about it. If you don't know what these are, we get everybody together on a Zoom call, and we have like a large group. We do some intros where we break people into smaller groups. We ask questions. I don't know. It's basically what you would imagine a speed meet and greet is, but we do it in Zoom.
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun, and we've been having about 50 couples or people or quads join. So check it out. And I think you'll have a great time. They're $10. They're open to everybody, and we would love to see you there.
To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the meet and greet button at the top. We can't wait to see all of you there. Also, a huge shout out to our Patreon community. We have an amazing growing community there, and we love all of you so much. We do have some Patreon calls coming up this month. The first is the women's group call. That's actually tonight, the 6th of January. If you happen to miss it, there'll be one in February. Don't worry. We also have a men's group call the 19th and a Q&A on the 20th. So if you want more information about those and how to join, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the Patreon button.
We're going to talk a little bit more about what Patreon is in the outro, but we're not going to dive into it here. We did, however, have some quick, exciting news from one of our favorite affiliates. stdcheck.com. This is the website and service we use to get tested for STIs, and it is fantastic. We love it. It's amazing. If you use the links on our website, you do support the show, so that's just a quick disclaimer there. But Emma, how much did they drop the price by?
They dropped it to $139. They dropped it from $199, so they dropped it $60.
That was some amazing math we just rolled out there.
I know.
You weren't ready for it. You were like playing with the blanket, and then I was like, do some math, lady.
I wasn't paying attention.
All right, so you nailed it. They dropped the price, actually. That was the exciting news about it. It's been $199 for years and years and years, and we our listeners get $10 off, and now it's basically $129.
Yes. So use the link,
timer.
Use the links on our website.
Yep, you can find them in the show notes or in your podcast player. There's links directly there. Save yourself a couple bucks, and thank you in advance for supporting the show.
Yes. And there's one more thing that we wanted to announce in this new January episode is we have a really exciting collaboration coming up with Catherine of Expansive Connection. You may remember her. She's been on episode 57 of the show, as well as episode 2 of the Focus Fridays episodes, episode 1.2 and 1.10, if you want to check those out. But we are doing a new thing with her called Power of Witness, where we've gathered 4 couples that have been on the show previously, and we're doing a deep dive into their relationships with Catherine. So,
well, it's a group counseling, and so it's going to be 5 weeks.
Yes,
and for each couple, basically gets a turn
on the hot seat,
diving in, and then Catherine's basically coaching them, and then at the end, everybody gives each other feedback. I don't know. It was an amazing experience. We wrapped it up a couple weeks ago, and we're super, super excited to get it out to everybody. And it is publishing. The first one will be next Friday,
the 15th of January. That's the first 2 actually will be dropping that day. And then there'll be every Friday for the next 4 Fridays after that. But wait,
there's more.
There's more. If you want access to them right now,
all of them,
they're available for our Patreon members. So go ahead and sign up for Patreon on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the Patreon button, and you'll have access to all of the Power of Witness new series. It's amazing. It's moving. It's just incredible.
Plus all of the other awesome Patreon stuff.
Yeah, of course.
All right. We will stop blabbering at you and let's get into the episode with Tessa and Amir.
Let's go. Welcome to the show, Tessa and Amir. We're super excited that you reached out to us and wanted to come on and share your story. I think we like to start with having you both introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about who each of you are.
Okay, so I'm Tessa, and I'm 55-year-old woman who has 3 adult children and is a hugely experiential and experimental and curious person who loves mostly people, but also the experiences that we can gain from opening our hearts and our minds. And I'm a mindfulness educator, as well as done a lot of work around sensuality. And I've done a lot of work in education as well. So I've been doing in public speaking. We've done a lot of collaboration together, me and my husband, and on projects that I'm an author as well. So we had a publishing company. So we've done a whole bunch of things but me personally, today, mostly I'm just a woman who feels really good in her space and place in the world and really always excited about what's coming next.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm on antibiotics and drugs and painkillers after my oral surgery today.
Exactly.
So I can tell you a lot about me, but a fact of the matter is that I'm a foreigner. I came here from overseas, and now after failing medical school. Anyway, I am now we reside on the East Coast, and I have been a serial entrepreneur all my life. I never worked for anybody, well, except in a falafel stand one time, but that doesn't count. Really. The fact of the matter is that I have always started businesses. I have failed miserably in many, and succeeded in just about a handful of them that are still around. So. That's me. I basically take my cues from my beautiful wife that is always have a better, I guess, feel for the pulse. She's always much more in touch with herself, and consequently, as a couple, I'm more in touch with myself when I'm with her. So,
that was the sweetest thing. I don't think things come up that we say as we
and now it's here forever.
But it's the truth. It's the truth. And her mindfulness, her 10 minutes gratitude meditation in the morning really set up the tone, even though I resented it. She said, "Do you have some time for 10 minutes meditation in the morning of gratitude?" And I said, "How long?" She says, 10 minutes. I said, "All right, I'm timing it."
Once in a while I'll do it. But so we're very different.
She's very much in touch with herself. I'm very much a matter-of-fact person. I take charge. I have a large company right now with many employees. So I love to lead. I love to create value and create a team of people that can work together. So that's
But we've had a lot of struggles with those failures. It's been a wild ride, and I actually enjoyed the fact that that's the thing about Amir, his entrepreneurial spirit, and that's what I fell in love with about him, as his passion and innovation of what he can try to vision, and it's so cool, even if it's never perfect, because nothing ever is.
Yeah.
So it's been a ride.
Yeah. How long have you two been together?
We are
30 years, Ron? No.
Well, together, 31 years together, dating for a year and then married for 30.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And still happy. And the way I feel about it is that, if we go back to our origins, it's been such a journey, and there's no one way to think that love can last, or to think how do things really work. It's just our journey has been one that it's with all the ups and downs and all the imperfections, how we've come back to it, like with a lot of forgiveness and commitment, and also ability to give each other that space to become happier. And I think that's what the Open Nesters is really about.
Yeah, and being in an open relationship for the last more than a decade certainly help. It doesn't mean it's not a condition to everlasting marriage, but it did help us quite a bit, actually.
Definitely. We do, ask each other, would we have been together if we hadn't opened our relationship? And it's not because it was having a specific breakdown. It was just part of the journey that we were kind of losing touch with our sexuality. So we can go into that side of it, if I was especially, but if you'd like to. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you are a young couple starting a family, 2 kids in diapers, and you try to manage the household and try to manage your business and try to manage relationship and try to manage your other relationship with other friends that you have. It is, you kind of neglect each other. You neglect the attention that you give to each other. And I think that being in an open relationship really helped us understand how much we love each other, really, when it's all come down to.
And how much we continue to choose one another. And I think that's the biggest issue, and the thing we can learn the most from, as far as what we continue to choose each other, and that and make the decisions together that allow for one another to be our as best as we can with all the stuff that goes on, the messy stuff.
I'm sorry for the long-winded answer for how long you've been together.
Yeah.
On a tangent for 10 minutes. So sorry.
No, I think it was fantastic. And I think maybe like going back in time, either 30 years or 10 years, had the idea or conversation of non-monogamy ever come up in the 20 years of marriage before it came up 10 years ago? And then how did it come up?
That's a real interesting story. I mean, the fact of the matter is that it started in Florida.
Yeah, but it wasn't because the conversation came up. We were just exposed to it.
We were exposed to the swinging lifestyle, right?
Right. No, and also the whispering in my ear. So right before that, and where I probably wasn't feeling as sexual in my life, is that we always continue to have good sex, and we have, we could talk about our erotic themes. So, for example, even when we were, with our kids on the road, and we're able to get either a nanny or have the kids be with family, we would like have fun when we went away. We kept our sex lives alive because he has a dom spirit. I have this wandering, wanting to be desired, dress up sexy. You know, I have more of the sensual, sexual, erotic theme or blueprint, and he's more of has the dom, and it was so lovely. We were able to bring out our sexual feelings for each other even when we were throughout having kids. I don't mean to say that we didn't. It's just that after when it got really busy, I lost some of my own feeling as a woman, and my body, 3 children. Like after those 3, I needed to be reignited in some way. And I didn't even know I needed it. But the sweetest thing is that one of my best friends of so many years, now 40, really an dear old friend, we knew each other in very young ages. And then we ended up, she moved to South Florida when I moved to the Northeast. We kind of switched places, and she found this nude beach, which I actually ended up telling her about. I used to go there when I was a kid, and I heard it was a nude beach. And she and her husband started going, and they started, hanging out with people that were much looser and more liberal and more into their bodies and more aware and just more accepting. And they started going to sexy parties. And I remember her telling me as she started going to this beach, wow, I'm feeling really sexy again. I kissed a woman for the first time. I dress up really sexy. And I started having these thoughts of, wow, there's more out there than we had no idea. We were really innocent and naive. We had no idea there was what's that.
She did not share any of that with me, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I was the one that said, let's go down, because that's when she invited us to trapeze in South Florida. And that's when we were going to be down there visiting family. So we decided to go to a club.
We had no idea what to expect. Classy club, beautiful people, and, Stens loved to dance. Tessa loved to dance continuously. And here she is on the center stage, on the dance floor, dancing, and a woman comes behind her, start taking off her bra and touching her boobs. And I'm looking at her and I says, wow, what's going on here? This is very erotic. This is incredibly hot. And there's all women dancing on the floor, and I'm like watching this, and really, it was very, very arousing to see my wife surrounded by other women, and they all touching, and the sensuality. It was like a dance, beautiful dance. So,
well, it's always been one of my favorite things to do. So start the dancing, and especially to enhance the sensuality part of a dance, and with beautiful people that want to, it's still one of my big themes.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't play with anybody. We didn't do anything. We just left afterwards because we had to go back to release our babysitter, whatever. So here we are, and we just I remember driving, and we're not saying a word.
Well, we were driving to a conference.
Before we driving back from the club, we wow.
We were both in what just happened?
We're not saying anything to anybody. This is, we have to digest what's going on. The next day, we are heading across Florida to Tampa to a conference, and we stopped every
we were like high school kids again,
45
stopping on the
minutes.
side of the car to have sex. Right. We're like, wow, this stimulated something, man.
It was very, very arousing. And that's how we really started got exposed to the lifestyle, the swinging lifestyle. And
going in, sorry to interrupt you. So going into that first night, you knew it was a swingers club, right? I assume your friend had told you that. Had you talked about is swinging something we want to try? What would that look like? Are we going into this with any rules?
We knew that it was a sexy club. She hadn't told me about a lot of stuff.
We didn't know what swinging
I always
is.
liked to dance. She and I danced and kind of did sexy dancing of all of our lives anyway. So she was she knew I'd be up for it. We would go to any club to dance. I went there to dance. I mean, really, we didn't know much about it. Really. So there was no discussion. It was what just happened? Was that it wasn't even sex. It was a sensual, erotic, fun night for us. That's all it was. A whole new exposure. So it was beautiful, and it was really innocently entered. And then all the stuff starts coming up to figure out. I mean, I would say that I've never loved as much, really, and we've never loved, both of us loved so much orgies, just the kind of not anonymous sex things. So I mean, that's what some swinging is. So it kind of put me off for a while.
What happened to us is that we start fantasizing and we start talking about the possibilities and what's going to happen. I remember that a few weeks later, we went down to Jamaica to a resort. And
with the kid, we went with a family trip, like very, very soon after this kind of within definitely the 6 months to a year. And we were at this family resort, and we had heard from my friend from South Florida about hedonism, and it was next door. We're like, oh, hedonism's there. And we had then started discussing and we're excited about sexuality, but we're still not doing much about it. We're not looking for anything. And we ended up going to the hedonism.
We were there for a few hours, just a night pass.
Yeah, we just watched what was going on. We weren't doing, again, that's what we were doing. We were like, oh, well, I'd be curious what that is. As we're leaving, somebody really sexy came over to me, like, this is a long time ago already, 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, and started flirting with me. And then he looks at your husband, are you tolérant? Or something? He was French.
Yeah,
he was French.
French, okay, whatever. He was a foreigner, good-looking, sexy guy. And he says, are your husband tolerant? Which means, can I whisk you away? And
the word hedonism, which I didn't, but it was the whole thing, it was a very slow beginning enticement.
I mean, if I knew then what I know today, I would have said, sure, honey, go have a blast. But it did not work that way.
So we were slow. For years, we did like this soft swing kind of thing. Like we kept it very slow because we were able to communicate because of that. So for us, that's how it worked. The communication was just a slow discussion. It didn't have a lot of hard edges as we entered it.
Right.
A few years later, when we did go to maybe just 2 years before the boundaries were
well, there's also the night after when we still in Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah. We are on the beach at night, the night after, and we all supercharged.
Back to our family resort on the beach.
Right. All this traditional, very conservative area, with children. Yeah. And we just went to the beach and we have our headsets and we are listening to Santana, I think it was, and took off our clothes and here she is dancing on the beach around 2 a.m. in the morning. And
I didn't think anyone was around.
Right. And dancing for, I don't know, a good half an hour for sure, naked on the beach. Then the next morning, we, with our kids, schlepping them into the dining room. And I guess the security, I don't know, was he security?
Probably the head of the beach.
He looked at her and he has a big smile. And he says to her, "You are the dancer." So somebody have watched her and knew about her, but that's part of this whole supercharge that we got from being in a resort.
Just watching. And then eventually we slowly, I think we were reaching out to others. I think we did at that time. We
went to parties. We started going to parties locally. Swinging was not really what we wanted because we both felt like we really wanted to develop a deeper connection with people, and just casual sex was really sometimes okay, sometimes boring. At best, it was...
we only had a few of those experiences, actual, just casual. Right. And both of us kind of felt like we like to get to know people, so rather we would meet people at the parties and develop relationships. Right. And we had a number of couples.
Oh, yeah. I remember we had we had a rating system.
That didn't last long.
Yeah, no, it didn't last long. We kind of like when we meet a new couple, we had, one... under no circumstances I'm going to be with that person or couple. 2, I'll do it if you really insist.
And that's why I said we probably only took 2 for the team, maybe.
And 3, I really want to. And if we didn't have a 5 in between us, it didn't happen. And obviously, Tessa always was the one that makes the final decision. And whatever.
So the rating system kind of went away pretty fast. Honestly, the bottom line is women's. It is
Tessa's
more.
Wants.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you guys find it. I'd be curious with couples. women tend to be the ones that are a little more intuitive or want to be or the little more of the gatekeepers in some way as far as what works, but not always.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so it sounds like you started having more of those conversations after Jamaica, like, where do we want this to go? You started going to some clubs or some parties.
Right. Correct.
And started meeting couples.
Yeah, but it was always like, we want to develop a relationship, whether that's a friendship or something
that is
deeper.
Correct. And we happened to found a couple like that. We were in a club and we met them, and literally the connection, 4 ways, 8 ways, 16 ways, whatever it is, everything worked.
It was amazing. Yeah.
It was like, how did we find this? For, I would say, period of about 6 to 8 months, we were totally in a courtship status. We talked every day. We saw each other every weekend. We went on local trips together. We were literally in love with another couple.
That's really what happened, but we didn't know how to deal with that.
We didn't even know what polyamory
was. We never read anything about it. We didn't know what was happening. It was just like, what's happening? Like, this was so intense.
It was beautiful relationship. Tessa and the other male part of the couple were writing poetry to each other. They were, talking late nights on the phone. And, it didn't bother me because
you were also.
I was also doing the same thing. I was engaged.
You were engaged
in the same passion, I would call it.
Courtship, right?
It was courtship.
It was wild, and we didn't know what we were getting into, and it was we
just let ourselves go. And again, if we knew then what we know today, we would know how to preserve it, because that was probably the best that we ever had, and I don't think we ever came across it again as a foursome.
Yeah.
But we were about to go on a trip together. I'm not sure where.
I think we were going to go to hedonism.
Or whatever.
And the case is that we also had not had we hadn't actually had a full swap by that point. Correct. When we met them.
Correct. So I come home one day. It was summertime, and Tessa says, "I really need to talk to you. It's very important." And when she says that, I have to really get into attention, because that means heavy shit is coming down. So here I am listening, and he says, "Look, I don't think we can travel to Jamaica." And I said, "Why?"
Because you were supposed to go with this other couple, the ones that you had been courting. Okay.
Correct. And she says, "I'm falling for him." And I says, "You what?" "I'm falling for him. I'm falling in love with him."
Right.
And I would say, why are you doing that?
Right. We have it all
perfect.
Right. This is where it really got hard for us, and we had our biggest breakdown for a number of months. And then what happened is I am always very emotionally, raw about these things. And I also I think emotions are messy. And Amir was able to compartmentalize as he does, because he's more rational. And me and my now lover of over 10 years, lover, I'll call him Wave. So Wave was somebody that really saw a different side of me. And that's what polyamory really is. And obviously now, all these years later, we know, and we've read everything, and we feel what it requires to be in this kind of really interesting and dynamic and different and challenging relationships of figuring things out. So he and I connected so deeply in that way that I said, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I had to just,
Well, his wife says, under no circumstances we're going to see them again.
Right. So she cut all that out.
Cut all the relationship. And here we are, really like heartbroken, both of us.
Yeah.
And we had a few weeks of arguing between us. This was it was a breakdown in our relationship, I believe. But it's also a breakdown. Was a breakthrough.
Exactly.
In the same token, because 6-7 months later, he contacted her And since then, she sees him on a regular basis.
Well, at the beginning, it was because a few times a year. And his wife and he have been together since they're 18. And he's, tried a few times to ask, can we discuss how to do open? And she's like, I don't discuss, don't ask, don't tell. So he, it's not easy for me. That part of it, as far as integrity goes, is always weighs on me, and it weighs on him too. So we go through ups and downs with how much to maintain it. But we've because it's so real for us, we've kept it going for all this time.
But I have to admit that initially, when she says, I'm going to go away with him for overnight, I was jealous. And
no, jealousy is a big part of what we now, as Amir dates.
But I love her so much, and I want her to have what I can't give her. And this is really what it's about. We today, progressively, we got to the conclusion that one person cannot satisfy everything that one needs. And that's why people can have multiple lovers, multiple relationships that fulfill many, many sides of a person. Their character, their desires, their kinks, their fetishes, whatever it is, they need to. We get it from many people, and most people cannot have the expression because there's no outlet for them or anybody that will respond to it. So that was progressively we got to that point.
Also appreciating one another as the fact that we are able to. I mean, everyone has jealousy as an emotion. But for example, I remember because we were both so really securely attached, and I've spoken to many of my colleagues about this attachment theory. Like we actually both came from a place that we didn't feel that we couldn't trust one another or that we would be abandoned. We were secure. And so when he once had a girlfriend, one of his first girlfriends visited us, I remember saying, sure. I mean, she had never been to this country. And I said, sure, she could even stay with us. And I got to be really friends with her. So even that was way before this, we don't have that intense, like, what is she, like that attacking possessiveness in any way. So the jealousy was because it's an emotion that it feels hard to figure out how to process. And yet, as I have a beautiful husband that lets me feel like he wants me to be happy, we like to say that we give each other that space to go out and be able to explore, and then we bring back the energy to one another, and that's a big essence of what we hope more couples can come to know, regardless of how much they give each other space and in what areas of their lives. And that's actually why in the Open Nesters we have decided to do this infinity circle with the birds going off as open nesters, because you go out and you bring the energy back. And that's what love can be. Love has no boundaries. And so I love poly and the idea that we let each other grow because love has no boundaries.
I hope that we will never arrive to understand fully what polyamory is. I like to continue to be on an exploration. As much as we think that we know,
right.
I would like to continue to be on exploration and understanding and experiencing new adventures throughout. As much as we think that we know, we still just know that we don't know everything that we need to know, really. So We're enjoying the process. We're enjoying the journey of discovering and allowing each other the freedom to be in an open relationship. Yeah. And it's got its own life, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
So after the wife basically cut everything off, you had this 7 to 8 month period. What happened in that time frame between the two of you and this exploration? Because I could see that being very hard, where you're like, we're going to try this non-monogamy thing, and sounds like you didn't really have the words or the lingo, the vocabulary to describe it all. And then it kind of got cut off. So you're then like kind of, I feel like standing there naked, like, what do we do? How do we move forward from here?
Okay. I'll take that. Are you talking about how we felt while we are still dating this couple?
Well, or more so like in the time when they cut.
After, he said.
Oh, after.
After. Yeah. So I would say that I don't think I've ever reflected so much on exactly that time, but I do know that we ended up having discussions and being open to the fact that we would meet new couples anyway. And we did. And both of us are really social and like to meet new people. So it was always fun to go out and meet new people that we would find, just even for a drink or whatever, and never had any issues with just making new friends. So I think we found a few couples, I don't know, during that time, whether the one with the edgy photographer and the,
it was shortly after, within months after that, I would say, we met a couple that we really enjoy being with, that we are really developing a good emotional connection with. So how did we feel right after? As I mentioned before, it was a breakdown. We really felt heartbroken. We both felt, we cried, and whatever we tried to forget about it and go into our own lives and move on, it didn't work.
And I mean, Tessa was
painful.
And as Tessa said, she was falling in love with this guy. So I
was heartbroken. Yeah. And actually, on some level, so was Amir.
Yeah.
But I also know that I believed so much in our commitment, and I believed so much that we would be okay, that we still went toward love. I don't think that we had a we had a breakdown to have a breakthrough, but the breakthrough was part of the process. So I'm not scared of the dark sides, our shadow, the stuff that has to come up that just helps us learn. And I feel like this is what lays us bare to that exploration. So jealousy and breakdowns, or any of the things that a couple has to get through, it's important to be able to go through and not deny. So we were in the process. I don't remember it with such, exact moments. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened. I just remember that we knew we would get through that. That's what I could say about that.
Well, it was intense time. I mean, I remember it because I really had the first time I was able to be separately from my wife in a room with somebody else and express deep emotional feelings. So I missed that. I missed that erotica. I missed that sensuality. I missed that whispering in the ear. I missed the intimacy that it produces. So yes, I was. I was disappointed.
I'd say that he was angrier than I was.
Right.
I was heartbroken, but willing to just say, okay, you're the commitment. You're the one that's the reason I stopped this right now, is because you're my priority. And I knew that he was the partner I wanted to live my life with. And I still I'm thankful that I do. Right. So I feel like I had a little more of that, and there was a little more anger on Amir's side, for sure.
No question.
For sure.
No question. Anger.
And how did you put those pieces back together then and move forward?
We looked for next.
I think we were also focused on. I think we made sure. Look, I always try to give us, especially the last number of years, I've called it Wow Wednesday. Give us focus on an intention for one another that's not distracted by other things. That comes up with giving each other our undivided attention, love, playfulness. Like, that's why we developed the studio along that way. I don't know which years that was, but this will tell you that's his passion. But and as I said, dancing is mine. We always found ways back to each other, and we laugh a lot, and our family is important, and we created rituals with friends, and we did a lot of celebrating and holidays. So I don't know, we didn't grow apart. He was angry, but I don't remember that we grew apart during that time.
No. I mean, definitely not. There was no question that our commitment to each other has always prevailed, right. And it's also prevailed during that period of time.
Yeah,
and there was no question about it. We staying together. It's not like, all right, I'm going to leave you because I really need to have the same feeling I had before. No. Right. No. It was, hey, look, let's look for the next one. There must be other people there. Each of us had multiple boyfriends, girlfriends over the years, and every time something, you terminate the relationship, you want to start one as soon as you can. That's exactly what we did, and that's how we found this other couple that we really liked and we enjoyed being with, and we're dating them not the same intensity, but it brought
And I would say they brought out our erotic themes in the same way that we just kind of recently realized when we were talking about our stories. And that is that he was, he's an extreme sports and business owner. So we all got along, and she was great and fun. And we became friends. And then he wanted to photograph me. So we were going to do an outdoor, which I always love outdoors, and I'm an exhibitionist. So one night when they came to our house, and I don't think you expected her to have like a whole dress up of a school.
No.
I mean, his dom side and my ability to get like separate.
Well, she says dom side. I didn't even know what dom is. I mean, she's saying it today.
Right.
You know, my first introduction to real kink was at that time.
And so this is a couple that you met after
our breakdown,
but still a while ago. This was still many years ago.
Yeah, still a while ago.
Still a while ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 10
years ago.
Probably
around
10.
Anyway, so Tessa is out on a photo shoot with this photographer, and just like give her an opportunity to be exhibitionist, and she's in.
And he took unbelievable pictures.
Yeah. And then I am all by myself in my own house. I think we just got the hot tub, right? They were inaugurating our whole new edition.
You weren't by yourself. You were with her.
I know. I was with her and by myself in my own home with a woman. And then she says, excuse me for one moment. She went out. She came back after 10 minutes, all dressed up in high heels and this schoolgirl outfit, real provocative, real sexy. It's beautiful. And she come close to me and she says, would you tie me up? And, what? Tie me up. I said, sure. And she says, and once you tie me, would you spank me real hard? And that was the first time I got introduced to what today is, we know as kink. And I realize that I like it. This is, it's a good, it's fit my personality.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. And now I realize, today when we talk about it, yes, there's a dom inside him. There's a much more dominant, but I'm not really into, pain, or it is more of the mind domination, more of a that.
Yeah, having a submissive that you feel like they'll do what they, and that response.
Correct.
And it's not me, so which is why being in a poly and non-monogamous relationship.
She can't get into that stuff.
No.
Not that I ever ask her to.
I mean, you did ask me on some level with the waiting naked in a conference room. We still do that nowadays with our play. So it's not, you don't ask me to. It's just that it's not, when it has to do with really, and I actually don't mind being restrained. I just don't like the extreme role play in the dom world and sub world. Just, that's how I am. So everybody has different, that's not as kinky.
Right. So I guess, that was right after you met that couple, but I wanted to kind of fast forward. Can you explain where you're at today in your relationships?
Between us.
Our relationships, other
your relationship style. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You go first.
So I still, as I said to you, that my primary kind of, Amir's my home nest and primary partner, but this man has really become another partner in my life and a love in my life. So that's been a big arc of my time that we are, whenever we have time, which is not as often as certainly I would like, or he would like, but it's, that's our limitations of time. So probably once a month, or if we're lucky, twice a month that we get together. So it's not a weekly thing. At the same time, I've always been never known, or never admitted, but always been so interested in the sensuality of women. So I've only recently become allowing of my being bi-curious. And now I'm beyond bi-curious, being bisexual, I would call myself more. But I do love the experience of being with a woman. And I actually had my first date with a woman last week, and it wasn't even sexual, but just we knew we were attracted and we were having a date. And that's the first time I've done that. So that's kind of where I am. I mean, we still will meet couples every so often, and sometimes just be playful or sensual. Sometimes it'll lead to more, or especially when we're away on vacation, we've always, hoped and looked for other experiences, but nothing I don't have to integrate that into my life and have a lot of relationships. As long as I feel like I have this intrigue, this eroticism that I need in my life, it keeps me in flow. So that's where I come from. And then where do you could talk about yours.
I am seeing 2 women, not together, but separately. One of them I have a total sub-dom relationship with. That's all we do when we get together. The other one is younger than I am. I feel like I'm more of she's in awe in everything I do, and she is just, appreciating everything. It's almost like she's testing new lifestyle, new ideas, and I'm kind of feel like I'm her mentor almost in many ways, and it's a great relationship as well. And these are the 2 relationships that I have currently, with the freedom that I gained from my beautiful Tessa.
And it sounds like then the 2 of you have come to a place over the years where you like you said, you do seek out couples at times, but you have this freedom, sort of this fluidity to explore and find things that work for each of you individually. And if there's something that works as a couple, that's okay. But you don't really have a box that you're putting it in.
No. Look, we the only rule is that, we need to always remember who is number one and who is our primary person. And we talk about that often. And then we allow ourselves the freedom to do whatever and explore and seek other relationship without having to put any restraint on the process.
Right. I think also what is interesting is I don't know if you guys have actually interviewed that many older couples. I didn't look at all of your past podcasts. And I've heard some and have read enough to know about things that are non-hierarchical. We have a more hierarchical poly relationship or non-monogamous relationship. But I don't know if you've interviewed couples our age about that whole process, which is what's interesting for us as well, of how to set boundaries in your own home with your kids as they get older and how to be communicative with them about this lifestyle. And I don't know if your audience is interested.
Yeah. Well, I know that we have talked about that a little bit, but we'd love to hear your take as well.
Yeah, well, and really quick, before we jump into that, I think, and this kind of plays into that, is like when you showed up at Trapeze a decade-ish ago, you had no idea what any of this was. And fast forward to today, where you have found a way to negotiate a very fluid, open dynamic that isn't like we're swingers, we swing every other Thursday because that's how much time we dedicate. It's very organic, and it's almost kind of a very advanced level to get to, and that you two were able to get to that. Like, I was just curious if you could talk about maybe some of the resources and things you found along the way that helped you get there. And then, to Emma's question about, and to what you were talking about, Tessa, about family and bringing all that in, because that's a hard conversation in and of itself, especially if you don't have any framework.
Well, and also, like you said, setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's two questions, and let me see if I can go to both of them. I mean, a big part of what I think informed our eventual evolution is that I ended up going back for a master's and did my thesis in sexuality, and then did some sex therapy training. I mean, like I know enough about the non-judgment.
She did the master in mindfulness.
But the non-judgmental.
What happened to finance, law, mindfulness?
So
something practical? No.
Mindfulness and unicorns and rainbow. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to offend any of the mindfulness. I'm a big.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, but the idea of not being judgmental was a big, 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 big part of it. Is that we naturally want to be. we go into we all are judgy, and you can't get out of it completely. But the more we can notice it and say, this is what's happening here, let's talk about that, is why I think we were able to progress. I mean, I'd say a large part to kind of my perspective about it, but also because Amir is a very generous and a very flexible. We're both very flexible, adaptable, and forgiving. And I definitely think that we don't worry about whether we're going to make mistakes. We're kind of both risk takers by nature. So we'll allow ourselves to stretch and then kind of evaluate because we'll discuss it. So I don't think we ever, we didn't ever use we didn't have support groups. We didn't have anybody to talk to about it. We finally did meet a couple we could talk about them too, that are now very poly, that are good friends of ours now too, that we can talk about it with. But we're not close to like any kind of site that has, or meetups that have our age people. So we went to a few of the ones with younger people and didn't get much from that. So we're kind of having to carve out our own way, without, just with our own compass, internal GPS, whatever you want to call it. And that's what the process has been. We can't point to, obviously reading more than 2 on the ethical slut or imperative, and even just having the understanding and knowledge. I would say everyone should read Sex at Dawn. If you don't read that, you will get the understanding of the research and the behind our bodies and human sexuality. But I don't think we had one particular way to give resources or a linear structure of that.
No, I think that we are progressively got to where we are by trial and error, doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, and agreeing, that's acceptable between you and me. 2 people can agree to anything as long as they are agreement on that, then it's okay. Yeah. That's their rule. That's their boundary. It doesn't matter. It's may work for us. We meet a lot of people, and this particular couple that Tessa is talking about, we met them at a party some years ago. They were swingers. We kind of went to their court to be with them, and we were seeing them once every 5 weeks, 6 weeks. As swingers, and we really developed nice relationship with them. They come to us, we go to them, we have great dinners, we party, and then we have passionate, beautiful, erotic sex, and then they go home and we don't talk to them at all, and then till we see them the next time. And that's how that happened. And during that period of time, we talked to them about that we are more poly, we want to build relationship with another couple, perhaps even one-on-one. And they kind of poo-pooed it, like, what are you talking about? That doesn't work for us. We like to meet new people. And funny that it's happened to them. They met a couple that they are in total polyamorous relationship with, and that we talk to them about it quite often. They are 2 and 2 and 1 on 2, 2 and 1. They are totally in a great poly relationship, and we kind of like learn from them what they're doing to kind of to see what's available really in the poly world, because East Coast, West Coast, it's two worlds apart really. Yeah. The East Coast is much more conservative. If we say poly to somebody here, they will just like...
Well, there are poly and often poly and kink together, munches or things like that where we've tried to meet people. We've mostly found that they're not either our age and there are a few sometimes that are, but once in a while. Or they're really into kink as a couple, and that's not what I'm into. So that never ends up working. So that's why we haven't had as much success with finding other new couples that we could actually develop real poly relationships with. We've been thinking about going to a conference, and now it's getting to be this COVID time is also pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's our answer for that.
That's great. And I think, the big kind of takeaway was that it was, like Amir said, a lot of trial and error and conversation, and it was a journey. And it was a journey together, and I think that's amazing. And I also wanted to circle back to your master's in mindfulness, and just that anybody who listens to the show enough knows that we both have degrees in engineering, so the thought of getting a degree in mindfulness like breaks
it like breaks a little something in my head. I'm like, I don't
break everything in your brain.
I could totally get behind it.
No, I definitely, I'm not saying I couldn't get behind it, but like thinking about what a mindfulness textbook versus my, electrical engineering textbook, I just like, it's really hard to comprehend. And so I love it. And I honestly wish, like, I wish we had more diversity in our.
We can always do that.
That's true. Never too late.
There's
mindfulness classes everywhere.
Yeah.
Now online so much.
I just didn't want you to think I was denigrating it by associating it with rainbows and unicorns. That was purely.
I actually know you're kidding.
Okay.
Cover your butt.
It was more for everybody listening that was going to send us hate mail. So. So
I wanted to circle back. Are you done?
Yeah, okay. To the family.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I've interrupted you like 7 times on that.
So I always say to all our friends, our all closest friends and our siblings also know, that we're in an ethical non-monogamous relationship. But our kids, it was one at a time because the time had to present itself. So I'm the one that came out to all 3. So I'll be the one to talk about this. So our oldest is married by now, and actually he was the second one that I came out to, so I'll talk about him second. Our daughter was poly from the time she went to a very liberal arts college, and also bisexual, and is very active in the queer community, and so I knew she would probably be the first one I would tell anyway, but I was always just open to when's the right time, because I wasn't trying to this is what we're doing. It seemed weird.
You didn't try to impress her.
Right. Or feel like I had to unload anything on her. I wanted it to be that it was natural time for her to want to know. So I kind of just waited for the right time. At some point I've mentioned, especially the gentleman, I call him Wave, that's in my life, and she knows it's a friend, but that's probably all, but she probably suspected. And I thought that may be the case. So, sometimes I wouldn't take a call when she was there. And then I was in New York, I was staying with her in New York overnight, a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And she said, I said something about, I'd love you to meet Wave. He was going to be in the area. And she said, so tell me about him, Mom. Like I knew that she was asking. I was really clear. And so I told her and came out about us. And she was like, I'm so happy and so proud of you and so excited that you told me. And she said, and you know what? It wasn't ever an obvious thing, but I had maybe a little suspicion you may be cheating. So I'm so glad you told me. And that's what I want to tell. And people really think our kids know more than we think. And here our children are 3, because they grew up in this house, are all very accepting and very non-judgmental about sexuality, because we've always been pretty open about, even when we went to nude places, we would tell them we went to nude places. We were nude in the hot tub. We love sexy music. Like we are who we are with our children. And I think the bigger problem that I see for when people have is that they don't want to be as honest and, just transparent about themselves. So that's the best way to have communication with your kids. So that's what I think it was so fun for us to be able to have that.
The timing, when do you tell a kid how the baby comes to the world? So it's all a matter of timing, maturity, knowing your kid can handle the information you're going to give them. And I think that Tessa has a very good pulse on it. For me, it didn't matter if they know or not. All I knew that I need to get them out if there's a couple coming over to party with us.
Oh, and he would get them out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd be like, oh, no.
You need to leave the house for tonight. Here is $20, $30. Go take your friend to a movie. Have a bite to eat. Don't come back before midnight type of a deal. And they got it. They
so
complied.
Of course they all suspected. Now that we all talk about it, they all suspected, except for the third. Definitely did. But he's one of these kids that don't ask, don't tell, don't care, whatever. I do my thing, you do your thing. And he, at this point, is probably the most proud of us. Like, it's so funny because I came out to him too when he was telling me he's in an open relationship at college. So I said, the other 2 kids I'd known by then. And I said, do you know that Dad and I are also in an open relationship? And he's like, yeah, I figured that. And then since then we've talked about emotions and relationships, and he loves to talk to me about this. So it's so nice that I have that open avenue with him. And then I ended up my daughter had told me that my son and his wife know that they had met young, and they would probably not be monogamous their whole lives, that they were open to that. She told me that. So I knew that. At some point, I'm with my daughter-in-law, and she talked about sex and wanting to be more open. And I said, I'm really glad. And I'm here for you if you ever want to talk about it, because we've been pretty successful in figuring it out. And so, and I said, and I'll tell you, your husband, my son later. And we all talked about it. So each of them at the right time. Again, it was not like I didn't feel a need to have to make an announcement, because I think everyone is at a different place at a different time to hear things. So that would be my suggestion. With communication, it's a hard thing, but it was a really important one, because it broke open our true ability to trust each other, and them to trust us, and respect that we're still giving each other a partnership that they can admire.
Right. I think that some of the topics that we're going to discuss in our own podcast on open nesters is coming out to your children, especially when there is this boomerang effect that they come back, they go to college, and then they all of a sudden either don't have a job, or there's some kind of an in-between,
or there's a pandemic.
And they have to come back. So that is something that our listeners would need to know how to cope with. It is an issue. So we're not only going to cover open relationship and new opening in our podcast, but also how to come out to your kids.
And how to set boundaries with them, and how setting boundaries as a topic in general. Obviously, you guys I'm sure know too, and it's when you speak to couples about how we figure out our boundaries, and by knowing what we're feeling, so that we can discuss it and then say, where's the place to meet to set a boundary. And so with our kids also, because he started out, even when they were in high school, especially the third in high school, saying, you're getting out on Saturday night. So they got used to the fact that this is our house. And so I do think that was a positive thing, as much as I squirmed at the beginning sometimes. I feel like as they got older, and now when they come home, this boomerang thing or whenever, it's so important for them to know that that we love you, that we live, but we don't live only for you. We live for, they say even about on an airplane, you take care of yourself, then you take care of the one next to you. We need to take care of ourselves. And we've made that as much as an example as we can, that I think they all respect. So we can set boundaries because they know that we're taking care of ourselves. I made a homemade sign, I remember, with one of the kids. Your hardworking parents are taking time to themselves. And I would they would see when I would put it out on the door, even when they were little. If we wanted to have sex or we wanted our quiet, that was what we would do. So we were setting boundaries when they were little. So if you have an audience that has young children, I definitely hope it's good. It's good to start young with setting boundaries.
Yeah. No, and it sounds like that you two laid the groundwork, so when you did tell them, you kind of knew you had raised them to be open and accepting, and that when you told them, they weren't going to freak out because you'd been, to judge, but you'd been taking them to church every Sunday, plus a couple times during the week, and it had been pumped into them that monogamy was the only thing and that you were sinning. Like, you had laid a groundwork that let them be accepting.
Correct. And I want to preface that by saying, please don't put us on a pedestal. We are really, all right. We're really trying things out. We really don't know what we're doing.
We're just trying. We're just
doing the best we can, and we kind of navigating through this life during a pandemic, during opening our relationship, and doing everything else. So yes, we have made probably mistakes in everything that we have done, but the mistakes got us to where we are today, where we're in a comfortable place that we have arrived. That is giving us the opportunity to live a very satisfying life.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think everyone is trying to do the best they can in life, right? So we all make mistakes. We think we're doing it on the right path, and then realize, oh no, this is not where I think I should be right now.
Right.
That's part of life.
No, I think it's amazing, and thank you both for sharing everything you've shared. We wanted to give you time if there was something you hadn't talked about that you really wanted to talk about, and then also time to maybe talk about your show that by the time this airs, it will have launched, but as of today, hasn't quite launched yet. So we'd love to hear more about that and give you the floor.
Well, Open Nesters is something we're very excited about because it kind of takes all the things that we love to discuss and meet people into being able to talk about it. So we're just excited about the journey to have a podcast and to have people that want to share and create community around being open and how that feels to them. And it's not only, as we said, in open relationships, but open relationships in your audience. If you have a story, especially if you're going to be an empty nester, about to be, or were, or are, or even if you have a boomerang effect with kids, we would love that. We have a great number of couples coming on, but if you have some people that want to tell their story, we always want to invite new stories. And we have experts on and coaches on and therapists on about the different aspects of how we grow as human beings and sexually. So it should be an interesting show that I'm lucky that I have contacts to a lot of the kind of people that can really make it very rich. And we'll do some business and travel stuff, which is, Amir has a lot of great contacts in that industry. It's not just going to be, it'll also give kind of intrigue into areas of starting ventures together, new hobbies, or traveling alone or apart, or living as people are doing in empty nesting, kind of apart, but together, but apart, I think, or apart, but together. Living together with some separation sometimes because they need that. All kinds of different ways people figure it out to love each other.
The idea is that people reach this period of their life when the kids are off to school and they were the focus of their lives for so many, many years. They were the common goal, the common ground, basically the glue that held any relationship together. And in some cases we see it not, I cannot say often, but many times, we see how the relationship falls apart once that glue is gone, where couples all of a sudden have nothing in common after the kids have gone. And there's either a separation, they're all waiting to get the kids off the colleges and then they can separate, or they open their nest to the possibilities. And we want to talk to those people that want to open themselves to the possibilities. We're not talking about the other alternative. We want to talk about sexuality. We want to talk about alternative lifestyle. We want to talk about new ventures that people can start together. We want to talk about the freedom to give each other to travel or to be with friends that they always wanted to. Everything that they wanted to do that they were constrained by their responsibilities and the obligation to the family and the kids, now they can explore and experience.
I like to call it Act 3. This is a time of our lives that we can actually reclaim. And it's very exciting for Amir and I, for the people in our lives that we see having that kind of staying vital. And the only way to actually grow older and mature and continue, I think, to stay alive in our skin, in our bones, in our soul, in our body, our mind, to just feel a sense of not just purpose, to achieve something. So Amir and I are really different in this area. I'm much more about the process and the feeling of what we're doing each day. Obviously, that's the whole mindfulness piece. And we have to, have a plan of sorts, whether, and Amir's more result oriented, but this country
is
and
there
our
anything else?
And I'm sorry, that's what it's. This is always our issue. So this world is so achievement oriented, and we lose our sense of self and soul when we don't know how to slow down. And so, for example, COVID has given me a chance to bring my extrovert in and really enjoy my time with the woods in my backyard. And I just feel like we want to go forward in a way to live a life that creates more vitality and openness and continually reaching and then bringing back to our relationship, because the quality of our lives and quality of our relationships determines the quality of our lives, as my favorite mentor in the field says, Esther Perel. Really, it is the quality of that. So we know that we're not going to be happier by being more and more and more successful. We're going to be we're going to feel happier when we connect more deeply. And so that's what we want people to be open to excitement, but also, if they can, to finding that connection back.
Polyamorous in various ages has a different meaning and different, texture to it. And I'm sure that to the younger generation, the 30s to 40s, it's one thing while they're raising a family and having those challenges. And then there is the polyamories of Act 3, as Tessa was talking about it, that raises also its own challenges and its own,
questions. Just continual questions.
So we are addressing those in our podcast, all of those.
Yes. Well, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that it's not just about it's not just about polyamory and open relationships and non-monogamy. It's about everything that happens when your life opens back up after having the kids leave. And I think too, I wanted to just touch on that. I think like the way that you two have embraced polyamory as a way to enhance the differences that each of you have. And it's come up a few times, right? Where Amir, you're very results oriented, and Tessa, you're very much let's enjoy the journey, and that you two have been able to work that into this openness and embrace your differences. And that's, I don't know, I think that's amazing, because a lot of people, I think they would struggle. And
Thank you.
That we've seen people that,
Well, and I think we honestly can personally relate to that dynamic too.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, you see, here is the way I see it. She can go and enjoy the journey because there's somebody taking care of the results.
He does say that.
And she's going to hit you with one of those drums.
Right. And then, but the flip side of it is because there's somebody that knows how to enjoy the journey, I can enjoy the journey too.
Yeah.
So it's not just one-sided.
Yeah.
So if you can relate to those dynamics, then.
And look, that sounds a little, and I completely own up to that. I don't think it's just my generation. I think I've taken on allowing for some level of male leadership, in our relationship in that way. I do want to say to my defense that I'm happy with anything. So I could have been in a small place and just be an educator and be a hippie in the field and probably been happy with that. So we all have, I don't know, we all have our journeys and we have figured ours out, but it's like we said, it's never perfect. We have arguments. It's messy, but we realize again, what are we coming back to? What are we giving each other? What are our common values? How do we continue to love each other with intention and choose each other again? And that's the conscious choice that we make in doing so. Right. So that's why we've been lucky and blessed to be on a journey that gives us that opportunity to check in and help us continue and stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's honestly a perfect place to end as well, because I love that. Like it's a
really good summary.
Yeah, it's a journey, and we're constantly growing and experiencing new things. And thank you so much for sharing and for the work that you're about to embark upon. And for the work that you're doing. We're really excited for that as well.
Maybe you can talk us out of it.
No, we'll let you learn on your own and learn from your mistakes. So again, as Emma said, thank you so much for sharing, for coming on, and for the work. And we will hopefully send a bunch of people your way to learn about how to embrace.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, to embrace everything. And to enjoy the journey. That's something I need to learn, is how to enjoy the journey. So thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, guys. Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you so much to Tessa and Amir for reaching out and coming on our show. We love sharing your story, and we're super excited for your podcast. It is coming out in the end of January, and we're super excited to promote it. So if you want to find out find out more, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the show notes for the podcast episode, and you can find links to their episode or their podcast. Yeah. And a huge shout out again. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah. In the intro, thank you. So I got a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
In the intro, we told you we're going to tell you a little more about Patreon. We're going to do that really quick here in case you wanted to know about it and you don't. So it is... That's why you would tell somebody something. Went in a circle there.
No, you did.
I brought it right back around.
Just keep going.
So it is basically a community that we've put together that we are super, super excited and proud about. We have about 104 members, and each month people join a Q&A discussion group or a Q&A discussion call. We do them on the East Coast and West Coast time zones. And those are they're not really a Q&A. It's really just a time for people to come together, bounce ideas, talk about what's going on in their lives. I don't know. They're a highlight. They're a highlight of our month every month. And so we love doing them, and they've really been growing. The other things we do, I'm running out of energy, Emma. Why don't you take over?
Okay, we also have a MeWe chat group for our members, and we also have men's and women's groups. So we know that this is not the best terminology to use, but for lack of better words, I guess, we are using men's and women's. And if we're looking for people to start a non-binary group as well. But the men's and women's groups are open to anyone who identifies as either of those groups and would be comfortable joining. We have upcoming calls this month. We have monthly calls, and we also have a discussion chat group for each of those groups of people.
Yeah, and the other really cool benefit is we have a MeWe chat group that everybody is in, or all of the $5 and up patrons. And that is basically one of the coolest places to hang out.
It is.
That sounds like a dork. I don't know.
There's always amazing conversation going on.
Conversation about everything and anything. And so it's a great community. We'll stop bragging about it and stop bothering you with this information, but we would love it if you would check it out.
Go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the Patreon button. I interrupted you. What were you
I was just going to say, we talk about it a lot because it has been the highlight of 2020 for us. And,
it has.
And we are just thrilled with it. So sorry, we're just like bragging about our kid.
I know.
Then he was on the honor roll.
You're going to want to go check it out. That's the whole point.
All right. Last thing was, the other thing you get is advanced access to the power of witness.
Yes, that's true.
I know it is. That's why I said it.
I feel
like I'm in an episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
You also get discounts on the meet and greet.
You do, which is coming up on January 16th. All right. Next week, we have another episode.
Yes, our next episode is with Jeff, and we're excited about this episode as well, like all of our episodes.
Yeah, the last one we weren't.
but he's actually directed a movie called Romantic Chorus, and we're super excited to promote his movie and get his story out there.
Yeah, it's sort of an animated documentary kind of deal. We've had a couple of previous guests on the show who were featured in the film, so it's been a really cool project, and we're excited to see it get out there.
Yeah, both Imani and Jade, and links to their episodes are in the show notes.
Yep. So with that, we will maybe let you have a great... you're going to interrupt me.
I am. Don't forget, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. We've said it a million times, but there you can look at the show notes, you can look at Patreon, you can look at the meet and greet, and you can contact us.
Contact us? That sounds like a great idea.
We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a voicemail or send us an email.
I went into like full Whose Line Is It Anyway?
You did. And I just kept rolling.
Yeah, no, we're doing it. That's the best way. That's how you do improv.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
we shouldn't be as stand-up comedians together.
Well,
together?
Together, no.
No. Okay. Bye, everyone.
You're like my hot assistant.
You're a little full of yourself.
I was complimenting you.
You'd be well, that's true. I don't think I could do improv.
All right. Well, have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.